Uh, so this video, we're going to talk about primers and cueing and how spotters can negotiate with the world, move around how the world communicates with you. And all I can really do in this regard is give examples. I can tell you to read the Celestine Prophecy. It's kind of like a cult classic book that went around during the time of my training that a lot of people learned how to read synchronicities from and gained a lot from, and it made a big difference in the world, but not big enough yet. It's still making the difference. We're still hitting domino effects are coming off of that. Values are in play, but I can direct you to the Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, which will teach you everything you need to know, and give you the interest and the inclination to find information regarding synchronicities more. Which synchronicity, again, as I've said before, is a term coined by Carl Jung, a psychiatrist, psychotherapist who um, delved into the collective unconscious. His prime theme was the collective unconscious and the unity of consciousness, that we all share the consciousness. He was kind of the premier vanguard of that as a psychiatric study. Um, of course, it's an obvious theme that's always been around because it is the bottom line, basic truth of everything. So everybody's always known this. We just kind of forgot. Humanity suffers from amnesia. It suffers from a very unique form of selective amnesia, it seems. But as I said, I can give you examples. The other day, I was making a video that was... Okay, let me go back. I made a video that I felt as though it bothered somebody, and I was unsure as to whether I should make a video, a follow-up video, or remake that video because I felt as though it was bothering our trans rep Andrea, or might, upset her, disturb her, which it did, ultimately, in some ways. But I was unsure as to whether I would need to make a follow-up, and I hadn't spoken to her yet. I wasn't in contact with her, so I did not know if it had bothered her or not, and whether I should make one. And I'm standing in line at, I think, the Family Dollar to get a stacker or something, and I see one of the Coke bottles in the little fridge in the checkout aisle that had her name on it, Andrea, and so that alerted me, yes, I need to make a follow-up. And of course, when I spoke to her, she let me know that it had bothered her and that I did indeed need to make another video to follow up, or to remake that, or retract some statements, or what have you. Just clean up, whatever problems might have occurred, whatever values I might have put in play that were bothersome to her. And so the world had alerted me beforehand, and that's a cue. That's a cue you can spot in the world that will, give you pointers, give you an answer. I'm questioning whether I need to make a follow-up for her, and her name pops up in front of me. That's a cue. Yes, you do. Think about her, put your mind on her. But effectively, that rendered that little fridge in my brain. It had assessed that fridge as being potential information source. My brain saw that as where an answer came from, and so it became an applied source of information for me, and that's a primer. That's a primer in play, that this fridge is an available, accessible source of a reference point for me that I'm going to come back to often, and where the world can provide me cues from via the Coke bottles with names on them. And so, of course, today I'm in line, and I forgot that I'm supposed to be helping out Randy. He and I are working on something together, and I wasn't thinking about it. But I'm in line, and the Coke bottle pops up with his last name on it, Wilson. And that reminds me that I'm supposed to be working on this project with him, which right there, that cue redirects the entirety of my day, because now I'm doing something altogether different than I had been, and it's going to put me in different places and cause for different things to happen. It puts a whole cascade of values in play that are going to domino effect into multiple other things. And if you're fast enough to see ahead, to see where this can lead, if you have potentialities in play that you can see what values are happening, what values are passing around in play, what might lead you to where, and where you might wind up, you can foresee, things coming. You can be ready for things that are likely to happen. You can assess probabilities and you can see what kind of synchronicities might transpire and you expect for them to transpire, such as the very first one is that when it alerted me that the project that he and I are working on involves some trouble that we're having that I need to help clear up for him, which makes me think of him immediately, that he might be in some kind of trouble because it's been presented to me, obviously as a reminder, but it also, my intuition said maybe he might, have some trouble here that needs assisting with. And so I had to, I expect him to contact me, and I head out of the plaza, and on the way home, I stop by a place, Sammy's Hotspot, where I can get an internet signal, and of course, the first thing that happens is Randy's wife pops up. Her line is telling me that Randy's phone is broken, and that he's not going to be able to get online, or he's not going to be able to contact me or get with the initiative. So if anybody's watching this and Randy's missing, that's why his phone is busted at the moment. But that alerted me to cover for him. But I had expected that to happen. I could foresee that that was going to happen because of the queue that was in place at that primer spot. Now, yesterday, another whole series of events occurred where I went to the same place, the same shopping plaza, and on my way back, I've already explained that I've designated black cats to be lucky for me, that I follow black cats, that's a cue for me. If a black cat crosses the road, that's the road to go down, or that's the way to go, or it just means generally that I'm in the right position to me because I've designated it as such. And mainly I've designated that because most people have the superstition that black cats are somehow unlucky. So it becomes a very unique cue for me to follow. It's something that's specially designed for me to follow. Very few people are going to consider that to be a good play. So it's something that's a primer that's in play. The black cat is specifically designed for me, as butterflies are specifically designed for me as a cue that I've designated for various reasons. The butterfly's a big one. That's always been a big cue for me. But the black cats, I'm walking down a shortcut on my way back home through the back alleys, and there's a slew of back alleys that cut down to Western from where I'm at. And I see a black cat cross one. And so I go down it. It wasn't the one I was going to go down. I was going to go down 104 as I usually do, and go straight down back to my mom's place, but back to here. But I cut down this back alley, and as I'm going down this back alley, a dog barks at me from one of the nearby houses, and when I turn to look towards the dog, I see another black cat there. So I stop and I wait a minute, and this dude comes out to walk the dog after a minute or so. Me standing there like a jackass playing with my phone. This dude comes out, and I said, you know what? I'll give him one of the markers. I have these initiative tags to hand out to people so that I don't have to remind them or screw around with their phone. I can just explain to them what the initiative is and hand them a marker, and they'll be reminded. They'll know to check it out. So I carry some of those around, and I give him one. And then it turns out today I passed by the dude again. On the way back, I decided to go down that alley to check on the dude, and it turns out that he is not related to, but he is involved with this girl that I met a little while back by my place down on 116 in Detroit, in the railroad tracks alley back there. That she claims to know me from high school, and I don't remember a lot from high school, so I don't recall her. I'm sorry. I think her name's Brittany. I'm sorry if I don't recall you, but it was nice talking to you. This girl explained to me, as she's out in the field doing manual labor. She's wheelchair bound, but she's out in the field doing manual labor back by the railroad tracks, clipping weeds for the nearby a local shop that I'm going to. And she's out there doing this work out in the hot sun and kicking ass and being awesome and doing, handiwork with nature, when she's wheelchair bound because she's has a problem with paralyzation in the lower body. Now, she explained to me that over the past, I think she said 10 years or so, through the power of having a positive mentality, just keeping positive mentality and being positive, and the use of simple natural remedies, mainly turmeric, which is very good, turmeric and cumin and such, those hotter, spicier Indian type foods. Those are very good for fighting cancers, tumors, and such. This girl, through using turmeric and positive thoughts, she beat two different kind of cancers. Beat cancer twice in her body. Defeated cancer twice in a row in a short span of time, and she was now well on her way to defeating this problem with the paralysis in the lower body. She said she had a couple of months of physical therapy and she'd be out of the wheelchair, and yet she's already out there doing manual labor and just being fucking hard ass. But of course, I invited her to the initiative and I gave her a flyer, but her tag, and she forgot apparently. So this dude that I ran into now effectively reminded her, which you kind of need her. She's a hardcore asset considering what she's accomplished and what she can, inspire people to do and to be. I mean, if she can be kicking ass after beating cancer twice and half paralyzed, what the fuck are you doing? Where's your excuse? Anyways, that effectively reminded her. But that same day when I went down the alley initially and I gave the dude the tag the first time, I'm walking down and this alley just happens to cut out right in front of a place that I didn't know where it was located really, but I had been looking for it because there are a bunch of artists there. It's like a group home for kids it's a youth group home for kids that are, I guess, talented. It must be for kids that are talented. I don't know, because all of them do like artworks and shit, and they put like graffiti, not graffiti, but it's not like vandalism, but they do artworks on the walls and the buildings down there, and I wanted to give them flyers, so I happened to cut out in front of this building, and I left them a tag in their mailbox. And so I found that place because of the alleyway, because of the black cat, because of the dude, or leading to the dude, leading to that. And then I start walking. I'm happy about this. I'm not really paying attention, and I hadn't gone down 104 as I usually do. So I'm thinking I'm on 104 probably. I'm not thinking at all really, but I'm probably just thinking I'm on 104. I go down 105 instead. I'm walking down and I notice, as I'm walking down, halfway down, this girl walks out in front of the house and she's walking across the yards towards another house. And she's attractive. I found her attractive, and she had like cool tattoos and shit, so I'm thinking she's a hottie. And I didn't want to say anything because she looked kind of mean, but she's a hottie. I wanted to say something. Anyways, I pass her, and the house that she came out from had a bunch of shoes on the porch that were pointing in the other direction. I immediately thought that might mean something, because I'm a spotter. That's what I do. I watch the world. These cues are happening all the time. But I passed them up anyway, and then as I'm looking around, I realized that I'm on the wrong street. I asked this woman, where am I? She says 105, and I'm like, of course. And I turn around, and I start walking back up where the shoes had pointed me. I see the shoes again as I'm walking by, like laughing at me. And I wind up walking by the house that the girl had gone to at just the moment that she and a friend of hers come walking out and sit down on the porch, and there's another black cat in the tree lawn by her house. So I stop and I give her a tag. I say hello, talk to her for a second, give her a tag, howdy doody, have a good day. I walk away and I'm leaving, and it turns out, I guess, that she is likely involved with a cousin that I didn't know I had, who I guess lives right there in the area. As I've described her to my mom, she says that it's probably a cousin of mine that I didn't know about. Erin, I guess her name is, who's in the area. So, these are just coincidences that happen, seemingly just little coincidental happenstance occurrences, but there are always going to be primers and cues in play. Like, if you designate something to be a cue for you, like the black cat or the butterfly, or you designate this fridge in the checkout aisle is a source of information for me, your brain's going to catalog that, and it's going to keep it as like a repository. It's going to keep that information available, make that information available for the world to make use of, and the world will provide you cues, communicate with you via the cues that you designate. And so you effectively program cues. I mean, this is going to be happening randomly without you knowing about it if you haven't decided to designate cues and primers for yourself. It's just going to be happening with things that are things that are personal to you, things that in the world that you identify with. It's going to be happening all over the place, but likely you don't notice it most of the time if you're not paying attention. The world will make use of what's available, what it can, to get your attention and to direct you. If you actively designate, if you operatively decide on what your cues and primers are going to be, the world will make use of those. So that would be the proposition here in this video. Just go ahead and try that. Start designating some cues for yourself. Start designating some primers, hot spots for the world to interact with you, places you go off, and designate those as prime spots. And designate a certain cue. And it shouldn't be something. You could try doing something that's very unique and see if it pops up, but you want to make it as easy and as readily available as possible. Black cats can be anywhere. Butterflies can be anywhere. They pop up all over the place. So they're easily accessible. They're readily available for the world to make use of. You want to make it as easy as possible, and you want to be as visible as possible. You have to be honest about things. You have to, if the world guides you to something, if you see a cue pop up and it's guiding you, follow it. Don't hesitate. Try to be fast. Try to be sharp. Try to spot these cues and try to follow them as promptly as possible. And where it comes to speed in this regard, you're going to have to. There's a lot of other values that come up, a lot of aspects in play. Like, you're going to want to be considering, if you decide to make a move, if your intuition tells you to do something, what values are going to come off of that, how it's going to affect other people around you, how it's going to affect the scenario in general. You're going to want to be able to assess the situation in that regard as quickly as possible and move on it. And so that's where I speak to speed. How fast you can move is going to be how fast you can take things into consideration and act upon them appropriately. And that's the proposition, is try setting some cues, follow them, and then if you run into somebody, you have to be visible. You have to be, have the courage and the confidence, and always have that confidence, because even if a lot of people are stupid, they're going to respond to you in a stupid way. If you just up and present yourself and say, hey, I think I'm supposed to talk to you, which I wouldn't, recommend, try to figure out a reason to be talking to them. But you have to have the courage to talk to them and have the confidence in that, and have that confidence, because even if they respond in a stupid way, it's simply because they're confused. They will be impressed by the confidence you're displaying. If you display confidence to somebody, they're going to be impressed by it, regardless of how they react. Most often, they're going to lie to you. They're going to say something stupid. They're going to be negative about it. They're going to joke around about it or blow it off because they just don't understand. But they will be, the feelings and the feedback that they will get from you is going to be a positive impression. So have that confidence. Practice having that confidence and that courage to do that. So anyway, that's the proposition. Make use of that. Get into play. Thank you for watching. Sorry it's too long, but should be useful. Kila Salai Teriyuni Siari Namaste.